Hey, this is the hard truth. Tony Shaffer, powered by Sig Sauer, Never Settle. I had a choice of what to carry in combat. I always carry the best. I recommend you carry the best. The best is Sig Sauer. And we are on the America Out Loud Talk Radio Network, also available on their podcast network. Check us out, Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com.net. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I should say we're on X. And not to say anything about Disney. No comments from Elon to Disney today. Thank you very much. And then Rumble. And we are here today with one of my favorite people in the world for any number of reasons. The chief marketing officer of Sig Sauer. I think I've heard of those guys. I think I've heard of them. And he's also the executive vice president of commercial operations. Welcome to the show again, Tom Taylor. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Tim. Just a small gun company trying to squeak by. You know, that's all we do here.
I know. It's like if you guys
hopefully
if you get past flintlocks, you guys will like do great things, I'm sure.
We're striving hard to get there.
And we're joined today also by one of our senior fellows, distinguished fellows, Tim Wilson, who is from the British Army, retired lieutenant colonel, who naturalized the United States because he has good teeth. Just saying. Not that the British have bad teeth. He has good teeth. So that's just you know.
I pay enough for them.
So anyway, we're going to roll right into my favorite part of the show today is the guns. So I'm going to start off, Tom. You guys have been doing amazing things with the 365. I mean, the one I'm showing the audience, which they can only see if they're watching, but they'll hear about, is the standard 365. I love it. I've got the Wilson combat grips on it. This thing literally with a small holster goes right on it. Will fit in my pocket, and I've got 11 rounds ready to go. It is truly an extraordinary weapon. And I know you've got the 320 X now. Is that I'm sorry, 365X, the bigger frame now that they're doing?
So X Macro is the largest.
Yeah.
There's actually 4 variants, and working on some other ideas. But you have the standard, which you were holding up. You have the XL. The X, which is the same barrel and slide length as yours, with a 12-round grip module magazine, and then the XL, which is a longer slide and a 12-round configuration, and then the X Macro, which by the convention we originally launched the 365 with would have been a 15-round magazine, but during the development of the X Macro, which is a longer grip with the XL size barrel length, but it's we were able to compress the spring, so it now has 17 rounds.
Wow.
So you're going 17 plus 1 with a gun that's still only 1 inch wide, and still has that same barrel length and the 3.6 as the XL 365. And you know, the beauty of that gun is it's pretty well developed for concealment, but also, I mean, it could be carried as a duty gun. I mean, if you've got 16 rounds with a gun that shoots as accurately and as manageable as that one is. Think about if you're a cop and you carry a gun essentially every day of your life, why not carry the smallest package you can, as long as it runs well, it shoots straight, and it carries 17 rounds. More than, I mean, there's some predominant Glock guns on the market today with a high market share of police officers carry that is much larger and only carries 15 rounds. And so there's that.
Some of us like carrying. So I've got my 320, which is a 15 rounder, and I actually love it. This is my standard carry. It's my kind of standard, you know, I do law enforcement stuff in Virginia still. When I do something, this is either on my hip or concealed, and it's 15 rounds. It's the 320 compact, and it's got the newer slide on it and everything. And Tom, I think this is a fabulous weapon, and I like it because you don't have the extended butt. So, I mean, it does really make a difference. And again, I'm a fan of the Wilson combat grips just because for me, they fit my hand well. And by the way, while I'm on that,
they do a great job. They really do.
So I've got a bag of grips. Tom knew I was going to do this. So one of the points
might as well talk about your bag of goodies at Christmas time, right?
So I encourage people to not walk out, but run out to their closest gun store and buy up the grips, because ultimately these things are infinitely modifiable and tailorable. And I don't know if people really understand what an amazing system. I mean, you can go from. Now, here's another thing I was going to cover in a second. Here's my 320, the M18 copy I have. This has got the anodized grip, the metal grip that you guys sell.
AXG grip.
Yeah, the AXG, and this is an all steel weapon, so you can actually go from essentially the nylon from to steel, and any one of these things. And this thing again has different grip sizes that you can do and everything else. So my point is, Tom, is that not only, and you guys know I'm sincere when I talk about the fact I carried an M11 in combat. As a matter of fact, here's the current M11 I carry. This is an M11 A1, which has been modified. As you see, Tom, I stole one of the Legion uppers and put it on top because I like having serrations in the front. My point is, obviously, I carry this is what I carried in combat, and I grew very accustomed and confident in SIG's quality. So to me, it's easy to talk about the benefits of your product. Not only do you power the show, but I mean, my goodness sake, everybody I know carries these things, and I'm going to get to Tim in a second because, like Tim, I actually also have a 45. This is my first 320 I got, a 320 45 caliber. Tim, I think you have one too, don't you?
After 30 years in the British Army, where my only choice was officially a Browning high power, coming to America in the last 20 years and discovering that I use many pistols, not just the Browning high power, but this is my everyday carry. It's a 320 compact, and it is easily the most shootable weapon I've ever owned.
So on that point, I mean, I shoot the 45. I've shot a lot of 45s. I started off carrying a standard 45 caliber Colt. And Tom, I'm not saying this because we're friends or I work with you guys, but this thing is amazing in how it feels almost like a 9mm when you shoot a 45 round. And I'm talking about shooting your SIG, what do you call it? My goodness, I'm having
the ground hollow point. Yep.
Yeah. This is what I shoot. I shoot the hollow point SIG 45 caliber, they're plus P, and it's amazing. So not only
mine too is in 45.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I think that's one of the beauties is that, Sig Sauer, between design engineers, manufacturing engineers, and quality engineers, we have over 400 engineers in this company, and that's across guns, optics, ammo, suppressors. We have more engineers in this company than the top 5 gun companies combined, and so SIG is not just a gun company; it's an engineering company, and when we engineer something, we like to make it better than other products, and manageability of the gun is so important. And the 320's always had that shootability that other guns haven't had. And then, over the years, we stumbled into an incredible feature when we launched the Spectre Comp a couple of years ago, which has now led to the X Macro Comp. But putting this compensator integrated into the slide on the end of a barrel, I think when we originally thought of it, our engineers were playing with it. We thought it'd be kind of sexy and cool to have a compensator on top of the gun, and maybe it might help a little bit with recoil and muzzle management, those sorts of things. But when we measure the performance of that compensator on a gun, it's up to 20% less recoil. And you're talking recoil, it's significant. And you guys are flashing your 45s there. More recently, we've launched a 10mm, and we've recently launched a compensated version of that. So of course, Tony's going to reach in his shelf somewhere and pull out everything I talk about today, probably. But
I don't have the new one. I have the old the 220 version. So
which is very shootable as well. It's a wonderful 10mm, but the 320 10mm with that compensator on it, whether you just like big guns or whether you're carrying it for backup in bear country or whatever you're carrying it for. I mean, we launched. The first one we launched was a full-size model, but then we launched it in a compact size for that very purpose of being able to carry it in the back country. But we put a compensator on it because of the reduced barrel length. We were afraid it would have a little too much recoil, and it's amazing. It's by far the best 10mm to shoot on the market. So, and then there's a next frontier. I mean, we love working with all these companies. You were showing your Wilson Combat a little earlier. We work with a number of partners that work with us. They work with our engineers. We share information with them. And I think historically, the mindset of gun companies was, I want to keep all my information as close to the vest as I can. And if you want to build parts, go reverse engineer it, but we're not going to work with you. We looked at it differently. We sign NDA agreements, non-disclosure agreements with our partners. We send them drawings because we want the universe of 320 and 365 components to be as good as they can possibly be, because it doesn't do anybody any good if one of our valued customers goes out and buys a component that's not good quality, because it's a little bit of a reflection on us, because people sometimes forget that it's an aftermarket component. And so we love doing that. And even this morning, I mentioned to Tony off air just a little bit that we're working on some next generation ideas for the 320 in terms of other ways the modularity can be increased even further. I think Glock has sort of become, over a 35-year period with the same magazine, there's been a lot of work done on componentry outside the box, not necessarily certified by Glock, but it's just became a standard. And so there's been a lot of aftermarket opportunities. And so we're going to continue to push the envelope with the innovation and the ability. I mean, if you've got a modular gun, why not continue to push it? And by the way, while we don't tout it as much, the 365 has the same modularity as the 320. It's not as we don't talk about it quite as much because there's not as many ways you can go with it. And plus, a lot of times when you're purchasing a deep concealment gun, you're not necessarily going to go change it out all the time. It becomes a little bit more of a utilitarian tool, but it has the same things. And now that we've launched our 365 AXG Legion, so we now have a 365 with a metal grip, and to shoot a small 9mm. It's the most friendly subcompact gun you're ever going to shoot.
No doubt.
The extra weight and the balance and the feel of that gun is just, and has a compensator on it. Yeah. I don't think there's a small gun on the market that's going to shoot as well as that one. So, for all those reasons, we just love to continue to push the envelope on these platforms. And just in the last year, we not only, the M17, M18 are in service with all branches of the U.S. military. We have fulfilled that contract. We'll release add-ons over time for them to supply to new soldiers and so forth. But we've shipped just south of 500,000 guns to all branches of the U.S. military in those guns. And then in the last year, as I started, the Canadians have picked up a 320, and they're calling it the C-22. That's their M17 or whatever. That's what they call it. The Aussies have picked up a 320, and they actually all guns they purchase for their military are going to have our Romeo 2 optic, which is our higher end, fully enclosed optic. It's like a tank of a pistol optic, and they have that for all their guns. Just recently, within the last few weeks, Denmark announced that they're going with the 320. And so, what we like to point out is this is probably, I can't think of a gun in history that's ever been more tested than this gun. It's been unilaterally picked up by all these major militaries, and I think that momentum will continue to roll. And we love it because it just keeps passing these military units testing with flying colors. All the high-level units in the U.S. are using the 320. Most of the high-level units around the world, even more so than the militaries, are using 320s, and obviously our MCX rifles have kind of taken over that special forces world. And it's just fun to keep pushing the envelope further and further.
Well, I will say you've got me drooling over the idea of a 320 compact in 10mm with a compensator on.
Yeah.
The 10 mil was too much of a kick for me. The 45 was just right. So, I look forward to trying one.
The 10mm with that comp will probably have less recoil than the gun you have in your holster right now there.
Yep.
So that's something we'll definitely try to cover next year. So, but for the audience to know, one of the things I'm showing right now is the Gray Guns grip, which they do a great job of. And also another partner you guys have is Icarus Precision, which is another full metal flame. I've got two of these, not for the same weapon, but there's different ones. So to Tom's point, you basically are able to control, by the fact you partner with folks, Tom, you have actually, I think, enhanced the possibility of the weapon functioning more effectively, because you're not like Glock, super like black box, don't tell us anything about what, our business. You welcome the folks, and I think innovation. I think Gray Guns, in particular, has done a great job, because if I remember correctly, they really started off the whole Legion series by some of their innovations. Is that a correct assessment?
The trigger on the original Legion
Yeah.
guns were by Bruce Gray, Gray Guns, and Bruce has been associated with Sig for I think over 30 years, which means that goes all the way back to doing custom jobs on the old German guns and so forth. And if there's anybody that understands Sig Sauer triggers and how to build good ones and as well as overall custom guns, it's Bruce Gray and Gray Guns. They do. Like I said, Bruce has been a partner of the company. He's if you ever meet the guy, he's the most gracious, kind man you'll ever meet. But the knowledge of how to build an incredible trigger and an incredible gun that's packed inside of his very humble persona is just absolutely amazing. And we love working with people like that. It makes us better.
Yeah.
When you learn from people like Bruce Gray and the people at Icarus and Wilson and all the guys that we work with, and there's over 20 companies that have sort of formalized agreements with us to collaborate and make sure that they're building the best products they can, because that's just good for our consumer. If they can have confidence that these companies that work with us are building guns that have been that we've sort of provided information so they can make them as good as they can. It's better for everybody, and that's the way we looked at it. We love to sell our own stuff. We make more money, but we know there's going to be aftermarket componentry with a gun that's as popular as the 320 and the 365. So why not make everything out there the best it can possibly be?
Well, let's go back to this bridge between the military and commercial and SIG. And I got to tell you, you've been brilliant on that, Tom. Some of the marketing that you've done, selling off the original M17s, I mean, just genius. I mean, when those things came back all worn out, man, I just we talked about this before. It's like, man, that was just utter. And those things, you should have charged more, Tom. I mean, because those things resell.
Oh my God! Now
like 3 times what you sold them for.
He tells me that all the time. We should have charged.
Oh my God! I mean, what brilliant!
Those guns were. I mean, they were so legitimate, and it's so because they came back, and I don't know if, for your listeners, the guns originally were all FDE, including the trigger, the safeties, and the takedown levers and everything. And it was brutal in manufacturing to color those parts. So the Army finally agreed with us to allow those parts to be black. But they said the only way they'll allow it is if we send back the original 5,000 and do that, another 5,000 with the black controls.
Arm.
Guns to be consistent. They didn't want to have the first 5,000 guns to have different controls than the next 485,000 or whatever it was. So we took them back and we just released those to the commercial market. And those guns were out there at times going for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 at times on the open market. And so between that, and then we also did the commemorative models, which was a set of 5,000 of the M17s and a set of 5,000 of the M18s, and those have gone very well. And I think what you saw today with the new M17, M18 X series,
I was about to bring it up.
Those are authentic slides, because the commercial variant of the 320 has a few differences for various reasons that we can either get into or not get into. But at the end of the day, these were slides that had been built for the U.S. military, and we decided to build them up in this X series, which is a little more akin to some of the gun that's come in that was announced today is really more closely aligned with some of the guns the United States Special Forces units at the highest levels are using, as well as the Australians and the Danes and others. Whereas the U.S. military has the standard grip module, this one evolves to the next level of units who have picked up the 320 and had that X series grip module on it. Yeah.
Well, the X series grip module, I'm just going to say it, is superior. It's just a better grip. Period. At least for me. And
they're both. I mean, I think the original was very popular, but when we launched shortly thereafter the X series frames, it was great. And then the other thing is the Army wanted to work with somebody to come up with the right optic for those guns, and so we collaborated with the U.S. Army. And it's funny because Tony, you've seen it, and Tim, you've seen it in your country. The military sometimes seems to live behind this black curtain, right? And nobody knows how things. And the deeper into the organizations you go, the blacker the curtain, if you will. But But our experience with the U.S. military and particularly the U.S. Army, who we work the most closely with, they have been so collaborative and so communicative in what they were looking for. And I think that's been one of our strengths is our engineers do a good job of listening. Our intermediaries that are on our military development teams have been good listeners, and they were looking for some unique things for their red dot optic, and hence was born the Romeo M17, which is on that X series pistol, and that now has its NSN for the U.S. Military. So that is now an authorized optic with an NSN number, a NATO number, for that to be purchased as a military product. And so when you're buying these guns and that optic that comes on that X series gun, you're buying products that we're making for the U.S. military. Not that we have any differences in the guns that we build for the civilian market versus the military anyway, but it's just people seem to love the guns that are selected by military units, whether it's the bigger Army or the Special Forces units. And so we've got the technology, we got the products, we had this overrun, so we decided to launch it.
That's great. Well, Tom, like I said, I carry often, on occasion, a copy of the M11, the M11A1, which I love, and it's all metal. Obviously, people have a variety of options, but let's talk about one other military thing before we jump in very quickly to the robots, the drone issue. The M7 is coming along. I shot it a while back. It's a great weapon. Wow, you guys have outdone yourselves. Another home run. So tell us where that's at regarding getting that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the final stages. I think all the manufacturing, our building, and you guys have been here just down the highway about 10 miles or so. Our new facility in Rochester, where we're building the M7s and the M250s, or at this point, they're still the XM7, XM250, because we haven't shipped the official first fully deployed units yet. But the rifles, the machine gun and suppressors are all pretty much production ready. We're ready to go. We're still putting the final touches on the 6.8 hybrid ammunition down in Arkansas. And so we have to be fully ready to begin delivering essentially billions of rounds to the U.S. military. So, we're a little less advanced in our ammunition sort of heritage than we are guns. And so we're just making sure that ammunition is exactly the way it's supposed to be for the Army. And so we're about ready to go into full production there. And so within a few weeks, I think it's going to get a little tougher as the holidays approach, but shortly thereafter, we get through the holidays, we'll be moving those guns into active duty and along with the suppressors. And it's just super exciting to think we're going to embark on something where, when you look at a soldier 6 months from now or a year from now, their handgun will be a SIG, their battle rifle will be a SIG, their machine gun will be a SIG. And by the way, the rifle packs way more punch than our previous product.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Way more punch, and it's way lighter, 4 pounds lighter. And on the battlefield, as you guys know, 4 pounds makes a huge difference in a machine gun.
Absolutely.
The ammunition has the same firepower essentially as a 300 Win Mag. So every round going down range will have that kind of lethality, is the word the U.S. Army likes to use. And so, so that is essentially ready. And so we've actually, from an engineering standpoint, other than just putting the final touches on the ammo, are moving on from rifles and machine guns to other technologies that are taking on the world right now. I mean, it's the technology of things that even 2 years ago you probably never would have thought it was anything outside of Hollywood is all starting to happen on the battlefield. And we recognize that we had to begin to dive into that technology to make sure that not only were we just building guns, but we're building a comprehensive portfolio of products that can be ready for the modern battlefield, which is looking really, really different than anything we've ever seen before.
So, yeah, we're going to take a break, Tom. If it's okay, I'll have you come back at least a little bit after the break, if it's okay. So I want to talk about somewhere you're going. And is it true that Ron Cohen's going to make everybody dress in Star Trek uniforms as part of the transition? I think you'd look good as Captain
Prosper.
Right, yeah. I think you and Ron would look great in the Jean-Luc Picard read, "Make it so, number one."
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a really quick break because, my goodness, Tom, there's just so much to talk about and so little time to get to it. But one thing I want to leave the audience with, Tom, I got to give you credit. I've known you for a while now. Sig wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your taking some guidance. Credit where credit's due. Ron Cohen gave you some guidance, but man, oh man, have you fulfilled that guidance? I mean, to think 10 years ago when you all started down this path, you didn't have a military contract to speak of that I know of anyway, other than a few special forces contracts. You didn't have the experience center. You didn't have people literally convinced that Sig Sauer would provide them a lifestyle that enhances their personal protection, right? I mean, am I telling the truth here or what?
I think it's been a aligning of the stars with Ron's expertise in engineering and manufacturing and the military and his passion for those kinds of things. And I think that, the gap, there was a bit of a gap because Sig had been so focused on, its heritage with the 226 and the M11A1, the 229 and other products like that. And so, when I originally talked to Ron a little over 9 years ago, the mission was, how do we make Newington, New Hampshire the center of the gun universe in terms of everything? And so, and I have to say, he has created a environment where we take him ideas and we present ideas to him, and he has said yes way more times than he said no to ideas we brought to him, and the Legion ideas, and essentially exiting some of the industry trade shows to invest more of our money in consumer-facing events, which was a little bit controversial, because we still absolutely support our industry in a huge way, both financially and with resources. But we love to put guns in people's hands, and that's been our mantra: is that anybody can go to a trade show and put a gun on a wall, and gun experts pull all the triggers and say, "Oh, this is a great trigger," but we love to have the confidence to have people see our guns on the line. We just finished a Freedom Days event for consumers in Florida this past weekend, and then 3 weekends ago in Texas, and hundreds of people coming through a range day for SIG, and thousands of rounds, unlimited shooting, and the guns just run and run and run, including we had the machine guns there. And people love to shoot the military machine guns. And so it's been a fun process to get SIG in a place where creating, as you said, creating an aspirational brand that people believe they can trust, because it has that military heritage, it has that law enforcement heritage, but also we're providing protection for everyday people who live in a very precarious world right now.
Yeah. And so, and I'm a practical shooter. I came to the brand based on the choices I had to make before I went into combat. And obviously I chose your weapon. I'm very happy I made that choice. But I think many of us, like Tim and I, we're not going to go out there and shoot 15 magazines of stuff during a competition. Our job is to defend our family, our friends. I got a little bit of land down here, and I carry it practically when I need to, when I'm in law enforcement status. But I think it's brilliant. So anyway, Tom, before we go to break, if people can see all these great innovations on sigsauer.com. I was just on, literally just on looking at your stuff on
X.
No, not on X. I was just on it on Instagram, looking at the 17X and the 18X. And anyway, so we'll take a break right now. We'll come back and continue the conversation because you all just bought some new technology. We'll talk a little bit about that. Tim will lead that. And so this is part one of the Hard Truth. We'll be back with part two in just a few minutes. Hey, this is part two of the Hard Truth of Tony Shaffer. Still powered and more powerful than ever by Sig Sauer. Never settle. I had a choice of where to carry it in combat. I always carried the best. I deeply recommend you carry Sig Sauer for any number of wonderful reasons. Never settle. We're on the America Out Loud podcast and radio network. Check us out at projectsentinel.com and on all the social media sites, et cetera, et cetera. We're joined the second half here by the effervescent Elizabeth Breckenkamp and the ever astute Chris Cordani.
Rally ho.
Yeah, righty ho. And of course, Tim is back. So we were just getting through the amazing line of SIG's weapons, weapon systems, the modularity, the amazing amount of research development and just care that goes into the line of weapons, and giving Tom full credit where credit's due for essentially establishing the national trend of Sig Sauer, global trend of Sig Sauer, dominating the military market and in an extraordinarily effective way. So not only are they going into expand in the military sectors, they're doing some new things with general robotics. So, Tom, what's that all about? Tell us about the general robotics thing a little bit.
Yeah, I think Sig is pretty good at making guns, and we've become pretty good at making ammunition, and all those things came together. The suppressors are great, the optics are incredible, and we didn't even talk much about our optics other than the pistol red dots. But our Tango 6T is the Big Army's optic. It's with the squad designated marksman, special forces, SOCOM. All those guys have transitioned from the ACOG to the Tango 6T. So we've done a lot of the traditional things in armament for that, for small arms. But we also began to recognize that, as I mentioned before the break, the battlefield is changing with drones and all the different things that are out there. And so in us looking at how we continue to not just make guns, but make other products that make our soldiers safer, that give us more lethality. We found a company in Israel that's called General Robotics, and they make drones, they make small land vehicle, unmanned little mini tanks, essentially, that can go in and do crazy things inside of buildings or wherever. So if you need eyes, or you need distractions, or you even need armament inside something that you can't see, these either flying or land vehicles, drones or land vehicles, can go in and take a look. But the real cherry, I would say, of what we were looking at was the RWS, the remote weapon station. And so this is essentially a cradle that sits on top of whether it's a Humvee, a Razor, a boat, an unmanned vehicle, you name it, it sits on there. We mount our light machine gun, or hopefully soon to be one we haven't talked about much, a medium machine gun that we have essentially ready for market, which shoots a 338 Norma and 338 Norma hybrid, which is the same technology we use on our 6.8 size round. We needed something to be able to mount that gun, and so we have this system. It also has a very sophisticated radar system, and essentially you can sit in a vehicle or in a remote location and look at a screen, look at your battlefield, your targets. You can tap on your target, and this gun, the system will. It's sort of the machine gun or land version of missile lock, if you will. So it'll lock on its target, and when the gun is ready, it'll discharge, and the target can be moving, and you can be moving. The vehicle it's mounted on can be moving. So you can have two different movements going on, and this gun will lock on its target. It'll discharge and take out its target, even to the degree of being able to track drones in the air. I mean, that requires a little more technology that we've developed in the land unit, the regular land units, to do the drone tracking, but we have that technology, and to watch it work is absolutely amazing. I mean, you think about statistics over the years, that when the U.S. military, Tony, you might know these statistics, Tim might, but when we went from rifles without optics to the ACOG back in the early parts of the war, around 2000, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6, whenever that was.
Transition started.
Bullets per kill went from like 83 to 18 or something. I mean, it's way more lethal without just spraying bullets down range. And scopes, optics made us better fighters, if you will. And so I think you have something similar here. This system goes off when it's on target, and it's pretty amazing. And then that has led to us diving into the other technologies that General Robotics has, which are drones, and which are sort of mini land vehicles. And we've coupled that with some very high level U.S. military technology, people that came from some of the very highest level military units that were into this technology some time ago, the very early stages of it. And some of those folks are now working here at SIG. So we're coupling U.S. military people who are on the bleeding edge of some of this technology with this company that we've purchased, and we have working prototypes and essentially ready to go into production with drones that can deliver eyes, that can, to be able to see inside places, that can deliver payload, whether it be we actually. I think if you look at sometimes the bad guys and they use drones, that they're basically using drones that can fly up and drop a grenade or drop an RPG
Right.
on somebody, and the collateral damage is whatever it is, and that's why they're bad guys. We don't necessarily like that approach. We prefer to be more surgical. And so we're mounting gun systems in these drones to make sure that we can see what we're shooting and be able to differentiate between a bad guy and a good guy. And so those are all things that are in real time happening here at SIG. And, I just think it's something that I always think back to the Gerard Butler movie with the drone attack on Morgan Freeman. I think it was the second in the White House Down series or whatever it was. I might have the name of the movie wrong.
Olympus has fallen, I think it is.
Olympus is falling. There you go. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. This is crazy stuff. And guess what? It's not crazy stuff. It's happening all over the world, exactly as that's portrayed. And so that's the way the battlefield is going to go. We've learned that there is always going to be. It looks like there's going to be a need for a soldier. A battlefield, that's going to happen. It's inevitable that we're going to have a battlefield, even as modern as technology gets. But at the same time, what's happening within that battlefield is going to be very different. And so it's been fun for SIG to engage in this technology and watch it happen so quickly with our very smart partners at General Robotics. And the only thing I think that was sort of precluding them from being the best in the world at what they did is just manufacturing capability. They had the technology, but sometimes you just need somebody that's really good at manufacturing and has the bandwidth to do that. And guess what? We got a lot of big buildings that you guys have seen here, and we've expanded dramatically. And we have the capability to build those weapon systems now at SIG.
It's an area I know well because I was heavily involved back a long time ago with the British Army's drone development. And the Israelis had the lead back then, and are basically the ones that innovated drones into the whole range that we now have, from very small, very lightweight, not used for much more than recon, through to, what you're talking about, Tom, will end up, I'm sure, as well with drone versus drone, as one of the counters to the hand grenade dropping type. Because those guys don't have the manufacturing and engineering capability. What they have is the backyard shop. And, robotics are a great firm, and the partnership with SIG is going to produce truly wonderful things. And I'm so glad you have the people you have working with you to actually innovate and take this forward in a really effective manner.
Yeah, I think it just needed some. We were one of the first to ever deliver with the MHS modular handgun system with the M17-18. We delivered on time and we completed the contract on time. And that's, you guys know, that is very rare in military contract world. And so we did that. And I think that gave the Army and the rest of the military confidence that SIG could do these things. And so, when we embarked on this mission, SIG is sitting around 1 million square feet of manufacturing space between our firearms and suppressors facilities in New Hampshire, our optics facilities in Oregon, and our ammo facilities in Arkansas. And if you look 24 months down the road, we'll probably be somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million, 100 million square feet of manufacturing space. And even more challenging, we probably got to add 600 to 800 employees across those facilities to help fulfill these contracts. And so but what that does is it gives us the bandwidth to add manufacturing capability for these sort of cutting edge weapon systems that we want to be able to say that we can holistically cover the battlefield. We don't have a vehicle per se yet, and I'm not sure that's something we're going to get into, but all the accoutrement that goes on vehicles, around vehicles, in buildings. Some of the testing that we've done, we've done training scenarios where we have units stacked up outside doors, and they send this drone in, and they've got eyes, they've got ears, they've got lethality that they can, if it's clear, if the threat is clear, they know what to do. But at a minimum, they know what they're walking into, whether it's one person or 5 people, or whether there's innocent people or whatever in the room. And then the little land unit that we have that's a little mini tank that's about 18 inches long. It can provide eyes, it can provide ears, it can provide sound sort of distraction. It has sirens that can go off. It has flashing strobes that can go off. It can do a number of things to distract. Because you know that you guys all know the drill way better than I do. You've served at a level where anytime you can throw a distraction at your enemy, I mean,
Yep.
I think you have a bit of an advantage, and that's what these things are doing. They're going in and they're creating that strobe in your eyes. They're creating. I
believe they can deploy tear gas as well, can't they?
We can deploy tear gas. We can deploy flashbangs from them.
Yep.
We can do anything, any level of distraction that one little vehicle can roll in and do that. And by the way, that has great application in law enforcement as well, not just military. Yep. I mean, imagine the hostage situations and whether it's in a home or a bank or whatever. And
I don't know if you watch Police Live ever, but they actually had one on a couple of weeks ago. And they also had drones in use. It was really good to see law enforcement using it. And this is all one of the things I got to compliment you on, Tom, is that the development of technology and the implementation of technology that SIG is innovating and deploying is good for everybody. It's good for the nation. It's good for national defense. It's good for law enforcement. It's good for home defense. Therefore, all down to SIG's go-ahead attitude, for which, on a personal level, thank you.
Yeah.
And Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things that a lot of times you have engineers that come up with ideas and build things, but then it's a little bit like the story of General Robotics. Phenomenal company that just didn't quite have the bandwidth to execute it. And that's what I hope that we bring to the party is an ability to think about it and come up with the ideas, but then also manufacture it, implement it. More recently, we've had very, I don't want to get into any names or anything, but we've had very smart people that have reached out to us to collaborate with us on these ideas because they see what we're doing. They've been part of technologies and other categories that are crazy modern technologies. And then they reached out to us and said, I think I can help you with this. And so it's fun to see sort of that expansion of people reaching out for us saying, I see what you're doing and I'd like to work with you. And, I hope it's like, it just sort of cultivates a culture here that continues to have better and better technology to go along with just the regular technology of firearms and optics and ammunition and suppressors and so on.
Well, Tom, on that point, before we jump off to do Tony's takes here in a second, what Tim just said, I think, has huge importance to not only what you guys are doing, but the fact is, and you just said it, everything you do in some form is to consider how the individual in the field, either a personal choice of a weapon at home, in your vehicle, or the military going into God knows where on the planet in the worst possible conditions, often in horrible weather, trying to figure out what's next on the next ridge or just past that door. And the fact is, you have a completely effective tapestry of technology, and I don't know of any other company, not even a gun company, not another company that's been looking at the shooter to the technology to the level of ISR, and for those who don't follow it, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance capabilities that are integrated to the tactical level like you're doing. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, we just, we when we competed for the next generation squad weapons project, we were competing against the big boys, General Dynamics, and Textron, and in these other categories, there's other behemoth, players, and we've got to get our legs under us, and that's what our goal is. We don't want to be just a gun company. We want to be a holistic defense company, and that's where I hope we're trending.
That's great. So again, we are proud to have you guys power our show, and we'd like to believe we do you right by the fact we highlight your weapons on a weekly basis. This is one of my favorites. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, which is the M18 with the AXG frame, which I actually carry and use in the field quite often, and Tim has his. So we'll continue to provide that as a source of inspiration to our audience, Tom. So,
well, I get the flare guns in the office because we're not allowed to have guns in the office area.
Yeah.
Too many risks with all the bullets and guns that go on here, but so I've got my blue gun, so I can play with it.
Tom, I thought you were going to grab a guitar like Ted Nugent did and play us a song. I was disappointed.
Or a harmonica. That would have been
That's the only thing I can play is a radio, so we're good there.
All right. So is it that time, Chris?
It is time for Tony's Takes, and Tony's Takes is powered by Sig Sauer.
I know those guys.
That's right. Never settle. I don't settle, and I don't settle for dumb questions on this, but I do have a lot of fun with what's going on in the world. So let's check this one out, okay?
All right.
Randy Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers president, posted on X, claiming teachers the union and the teachers unions worked hard to reopen U.S. schools for safe in-person learning beginning back in April 2020. That's a complete line nobody believes, but she's been spouting it for over a year. Does she really think people will believe this? She's a culprit. What's your take?
So I think she's a Klingon, and she's trying to use the Klingon cloaking device to hide her misstatement on the issue. Would that be accurate? I think so. Because, the Klingons...
perfectly logical, isn't it?
The Klingons are great at using cloaking devices, so maybe it's kind of a combination of the Jedi mind trick and cloaking device. That's the only thing I can think of. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Tim, I don't get it. In Radioland, Tim's covering his face on this one.
If anybody does believe her, I just feel sad for them. It's like, why would you believe that? Yeah.
Well, because
she's more neck than a giraffe.
So it's interesting because Tom knows this. During that time, we were up at your place during COVID, right? We were up there doing things. We did our video.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, that's right. Video. Yeah,
that's right.
So we weren't affected by anything the educators said regarding not showing up.
Here's another one, Tony, and this is funny because the Chicago mayor Brandon Johnson is addressing crime in his city. Okay.
Yes.
Now, he's blaming, now get this, he's blaming right-wing extremists for crime in his city. And did we not learn from the Jussie Smollett altercation, if you will, that the inner city Chicago is not exactly a right-wing outpost? What's your take?
So all he's trying to do, Chris, is get Geraldo Rivera to come back and start opening doors in the city. That's all he's doing. He's trying to draw up drama. Geraldo does not like right-wing extremists, so they've got a building. They've probably put a bunch of doors in. It said it was Donald Trump's lost brief or something. I don't know, but they're going to try to get Geraldo to come out and start opening doors and try to find things. I think that's what's going on.
Is he going to draw his game plan in the sand and explain the whole thing?
I think so. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch Geraldo open doors and see things which are really dusty? I remember that as a kid. Who would not remember the Al Capone secret room that I think had 24 Reader's Digests and a slightly blue series of books relating to African tribes? Who would not forget?
I remember
Geraldo
that.
just looks like a Muppet. He just looks like a caricature. His mustache and the hair, he doesn't even look like
I met Geraldo. Did you know? I mean, it's in my book. So I was going, it was the middle of the night at Bagram. I was going to the bathroom, which we'll have to do in the middle of the night. And I hear some commotion. Some guy says, "Hey, Geraldo's over there." It's like, really? It's like,
in the bathroom.
Okay. So I'm going to the Porta Johns. It's all dark. It's all tactical, so you can't see anything. So I'm standing in front of a door at one of these Porta Johns. And then so the door opens and out pops Geraldo. He says, "I'm Geraldo Rivera." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And I walked around him and I went into the Porta Johns.
Well, George Carlin said it best. You got to be brain dead to watch Geraldo anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Here's another one. Let's float this around here. I've been watching John Fetterman, and he seems to be recovering pretty well. In fact, I believe the man's been lucid recently. However, check this out.
All right.
He angered his lefty cult followers by supporting Israel. So, Tony, as a man with credentials here and almost everything, is there a correlation between mental competence and angering Marxists?
Well, look, I don't know what to say about that because every Marxist I know is fundamentally insane. So if you remove the insanity from a Marxist, maybe they become sane. Is that an equation we could kind of do some research on? I don't know.
A single data point does not make a trend.
I know. I mean, wow. I don't know.
Well, it looks like he's been recovering. It looks like he's been more lucid. He comes up with something lucid, and the nuts just get upset at him.
Well,
Think
let me
about
say
it.
something about this.
Like the
as a
comments he
topic.
made about George Santos and then Menendez. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're
Well, let
going
me
to
say
pick
something
Santos,
as
kick
a
Menendez out.
policy issue. Anybody who actually says anything favorable about Hamas literally is insane. I mean, if anybody who has not reviewed those accounts of the atrocities of 7 October, and by the way, this is something that's being way underreported. I'm going to talk about it tonight with Ed Henry on Newsmax. The reason Hamas did not give up those women is because they know the moment they get out, they're going to have all these stories of the atrocities they are currently living through.
Exactly.
That's why they stopped. And so I get fed up by the left. And I'm sorry, this is a hot button for me. When the left talks about, genocide, I'm sorry. There are 400 million Arabs in the Middle East. There are about, I think, 18 million Jews. And I think that they're outnumbered, outgunned. And the idea that some terrorist organization that literally tortures babies, cuts off their heads, burns people alive, somehow that is morally equivalent to the IDF using the best technology, the best tactics and techniques to root out and protect the civilians of Palestine, at the same time killing bad guys. I can't believe anybody who has any brain can get past the very fact of what he's talking about.
I agree. Yeah.
And Joe Biden, I want to throw this to all of you. We have about a minute or so left. I want to throw this to you. Joe Biden actually made a demand that Israel wrap things up by January. Like he has political pull around the world to do that.
What's happening in January for Biden? God.
I think he's like having another blood transfusion. I think he's
Oh, that could be it.
It's like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons.
Jill gets her New Year's wishes.
So,
that's it.
by the way, I testified before Joe Biden back in 2005, or as part of Able Danger. So I've met the guy. And I've been in the Excella Lounge with him too in New York. We've actually been in the Excella Lounge together. There's some pictures of he and I out there. So anyway, it's been an interesting show, Tom. I'm not saying this because I know you personally. You're my friend. You guys are kicking ass, and I mean, I just don't know how to say it in any clearer terms. It's like, man, I seriously don't know of any other company, and I deal with a lot of folks on a daily basis who has been so comprehensive and effective of moving their entire organization to double its capacity to do the right thing for the public. So kudos on you, and Merry Christmas to you and the folks.
Tony. It's I value your friendship, and I've enjoyed getting to know the team here at the Hard Truth, and in our previous times with Elizabeth and Tim, and just have enjoyed it. And we're just pedaling as fast as we can. And it's a dangerous world out there, and we're really proud to do our part to try to help protect it.
And so this ends another episode of The Hard Truth. And shout out to our friend Cherie Curry. Cherie does our bumper and theme music. God bless you, Cherie. And obviously a very Merry Christmas to you. And we're going to have her back on the show sometime soon. And we'll be doing a number of other interesting things to continue our discussion from everything from our sponsor, Sig Sauer, to climate change, to issues relating to women's rights. We've had several programs on that. So we'll continue to have you all show up. Ask the hard questions so we can try to get you the hard truth. So thanks for being here today. We'll see you again real soon.